kids, welcome! You are the Master's Kids, and I am Pastor Jerry, and I am back to tell you another story. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope that you've been listening to the stories, and I hope that you've been sharing the stories with your friends and on Facebook or wherever you can share it. And when you listen to a story, always go and tell mom and dad what you learned. Tell them what you learned, and that way the story will get into your head and it'll get into your heart, and then God can use it as you grow up to become like Jesus. All right, are you getting started? So Luke chapter 5 is where I find my next story, and here's where Jesus is beginning to find his disciples. Remember that he had 12 disciples, and Jesus is going looking, he's picking his disciples. Who's going to be his team? Who's going to be the guys who are going to be with him and get the job done? Who's going to do the job when he goes to heaven and they go around and accomplish and finish the work that Jesus started? His disciples. Yeah, there were 12 of them. So as he began to look for them, he was once upon a time standing on the side of the shore, and the water was kind of just coming in. You've been to the beach, the water's just coming and coming, wave after wave. It was hitting his legs, his ankles, and he was facing the land, and people were just sitting there and they were looking at him and listening to him. Okay. And they were enjoying his stories, and Jesus was teaching, and then suddenly he got a little tired, because he's human also, and he looked back, and on the water, the water was just like, and on the water were two boats, but there were no fishermen. The fishermen had gone away. They were kind of like either mending their nets, or they had gone deep into the sea, and he went and stepped into the boat. And he pulled the boat back and he sat down on the boat, and from there he started speaking to the people, and he continued to teach the people. And by the time the fishermen came back, and he had gotten to the boat of a guy called Simon, whose other name was Peter. Do you remember Peter? Yeah, Simon Peter. So he had gotten into his boat, and when he got into his boat and he had sat in his boat, Simon Peter, he says, like, Lord, what do you want to do now? You finished talking. What do you want to do? Then he says, okay, here's what we're going to do, Simon. I want us to go into the deep. Take me for a ride, or whatever you do in a boat, and I want to go into the deep. But we just went for a very long trip and we just got back, Lord. No, let's go. Take into the deep. And when you go into the deep, I want you to put your nets out. I want you to put your nets out so that we can catch a lot of fish. Simon was like, we already went for a long trip and we're very tired, and we're already put out, and the whole night, believe you me, the whole night we were trying to fish, and we caught nothing. So Simon is like, I'm a fisherman. I've been a fisherman for a long time. I know what needs to be done. And who is this guy coming and telling me to put the net out? But you know what? There are times in life where we need to obey, even when we think we are smarter than the person telling us. We need to obey even when we think we are smarter. Are you with me? Sometimes we think we're so smart. Sometimes we think we know the answers. Sometimes we think this is not going to work. But sometimes obedience just needs to be done. So Peter decided to obey, and he just did what Jesus said. And you know what the Bible says? It says, okay, Lord, if you say, I'm going to do it. Because you say, I'm going to do it. We went, we caught nothing, but if you say, we're going to do it. So he pushed the boat, and they rowed, got into the deep, everything got quiet, the crowds went away, and he threw that net out, those big nets with all the balls on the end, and it went flying out, and it fell on the water and began to sink down. And everybody was just chilled, and they were waiting. The disciples were sitting around, the fishermen were sitting around, Jesus was chilling. It was nice and quiet. It was kind of late morning, and suddenly Peter feels a tug. Hey, what's that? Oh, hey, the boat is moving. Hey, what's that? What's going on? And he grabbed the net and he started pulling. Hey, help me. And he started pulling, and he saw a few fish, then he saw many fish, then he saw incredible number of fish, and so much so that now his net started tearing. Fish were escaping from the net because there were so many fish. and he pulled it so much so that he had to call the guys from the other boats. Remember, there were two boats. He had to call the guys from the other boat and say, come and help us. And they all grabbed, these are strong fishermen, they all grabbed the net and they hauled that number of fish into the boat. And they were like, wow. They were like, this is insane. And all the fishermen were astonished. They were like, who is this guy? They looked at the number of the fish and they looked at him, and then they looked at the fish and then they looked at him. It's like, who is this guy? And Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You think you just caught fish and I helped you to catch so many fish? From now on, you're going to catch men. And if I can help you by your obedience to catch so many fish, then by your obedience, I can help you to catch many, many men. Peter became one of the greatest writers, and a lot of the books in the Bible are written by him. And he teaches us how to love and serve Jesus. He teaches us how to be shepherds. He teaches us how to look after the sheep in the church. Peter became a person who understood that obeying Christ is the most important thing, even when you think you're smarter, even when you think you know better. Obedience is better. Even when you think you know better, obedience is still better. Remember that as you go through life. Obedience is not built on what you know. Obedience is always built on who you trust. And as you keep your eyes on God and you read the Bible and you see a command to do things in life, to love your parents, to obey your parents, to love your people and love your siblings and to forgive your others, when you see commands like that, you should say, you know what? Peter just obeyed and look what happened to him. If I obey, I will see God's blessing too. All right? That's our story for today. Till next time, see you, Masters, kids, champions. Bye-bye.